All right, so welcome everyone to Cooking with CK, where today I'm making some apple strudel muffins. I'll put the recipe up on the description for this video. And this is apple muffins with a crumbly cinnamon topping, which is so good you'll want to bake a batch every morning. So it's in the description. Yeah, I am doing a Hangout Kenshin, although I don't think I don't know if I can add, but it's live somewhere. Hopefully it's live. Let's see if I can find the live link. Oops, wrong place. No, it's not there. It's on my other one of my other accounts. But if I switch over to there, shoot. So I started it wrong. Or I started it on the wrong. Oh, well, we'll just go ahead and do this. Okay, so didn't work out this time. So we're going to start by preheating the oven to 375. And as I said, never trust your oven. Always pay attention to the actual temperature inside. And then I need to take apple. I need 1.5 cups of chopped apples. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up some apples. You can have whatever kind you want here. I've got a whole nice bowl of apples here. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up 1.5 cups worth. And that's just going to be a matter of cutting. There we go. And adding them in here to my measuring cup until it comes up to 1.5. So, the way I normally do this, oops, wrong knife, is, there we go. I'll take a steak knife, and then I'll take just a big old knife. Pull one off the wall here. Come on, there we are. Big old knife. So I'll cut my apples, already washed, of course. I'll cut that and quarter the apples. I actually bought and will have coming to me soon an apple core, which I'm looking forward to, an apple peeler and slicer and so forth. But for now, I'm just doing this manually. Then I'll cut off the middle bit. So I'll just cut a wedge into the middle of the apple. So I'll cut out that little middle bit. Then I just peel off the skin in a couple of pieces. There we go. That's good to go. Then I just do that for the other the other three rather. But be very careful, of course, whenever you're cutting towards yourself. Be very dangerous, or at least it can give you a cut. It certainly cut you nicely. The reason I have the two knives is that I could certainly use the steak knife to cut into the apples, but it's going to be a little hard for it to cut through any seeds or anything like that. So I try not to do that. And I'm going to just go ahead and cut all of these before I start trying to chop them up. So there's the other bit. There we go. So I've got these 4 pieces cut. Now I'm just going to now they say in the recipe that we want chopped apples. Now it doesn't say diced or anything like that. So I'm just going to I'm going to cut it in pieces like this. And then I'm going to cut the other direction. And I'm going to kind of assume that that's correct. It's nice to cut lengthwise first because then they hold together a little bit better than the alternative. Go. Cut those into relatively small pieces. Again, the recipe doesn't tell me, but I'm assuming we're going to mix all these together, so I want relatively small pieces. There we are, and then so we'll see how much we get here. Also notice the recipe did not tell me how many apples worth I need. I assume it's because you just don't know how big your apples are. So I poured that in, and that gives me, what do we got there? We've got just over a cup worth of apples. So I'm going to add a bit more of an apple. Obviously not a whole apple, but a bit more. Found the Hangout. Excellent. Kenshin, if you could actually paste the link to the Hangout in the chat room, then I would appreciate that, because then we can, because the link should be turned on. But Kenshin just left. Dang. Okay, so I'm going to cut this. I think I'm going to cut up one of these and add that and see if that's all I need. These are slightly larger apples anyway. Use a larger knife as well. Always good to have a bunch of sharp knives. And what does that give me? That gives me 1.5 cups. Pretty exactly. Good. Just going to mix that around a bit. Yeah, 1.5 cups. Great. So these I'll use for something else. No worries, Kenshin. Thanks for the link. Thank you very much. All right, put this in there. As we all know from Ratatouille, you want to get your dishes out of the way as soon as possible. That beep tells me the oven is mostly ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is just mix together my dry ingredients, as is typical for a muffin recipe, using what's called the muffin method. So I'm going to add 2 cups of flour, teaspoon of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon salt, all of those together into a flour, baking powder, yeah. And actually, because I'm going to mix that into my recipe, I'm going to use a trick I found a while ago. This sifter already has, yeah, the music's on. Oh, well. I don't care. So this sifter I have actually has many several cups. I'm just going to dump all those dry ingredients in here, then I can sift them in later. So, yeah, we'll leave the music. That's okay. We'll be able to make money off it, but they shouldn't kill it, hopefully. So we want 2 cups of all-purpose flour. All-purpose flour. So I'll grab my bag of AP flour here. Normal old flour. And then, actually, I'll do it over here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. There we go. And I'm a little unsure about the actual, so, you know, I don't want to base myself completely off these lines. It's really hard to read. So I'm going to grab a measuring cup and use that. I'll probably just do this. Yep. So there's 1 cup of flour. And there's another cup of flour. That we will add a teaspoon of baking powder. Don't want to get these too confused. You've got to be careful with these. There's a teaspoon. So let me put in my teaspoon of baking powder. Then it wants half teaspoon baking soda. Grab my half teaspoon. Yeah, the live hangouts are often pretty awesome in terms of all that stuff. It's not bouncing through Ustream or anything else. It's going straight through all of Google's servers, just Google servers. Then half teaspoon of salt. Let me wash the baking soda off that. Don't want to cross-contaminate, meaning I don't want baking soda in my salt by using the same spoon. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll post links to the Hangouts from now on when they start. So I want half teaspoon of salt in there. So now when I'm going to mix that in, I'll just sift that in. Excellent question. I believe baking powder. Baking powder has, I think, more stuff. To remind myself. Where's the ingredient list in baking soda? Yeah, so baking soda is just sodium bicarbonate. Baking powder contains cornstarch, as well as sodium bicarbonate, and some other bits and pieces in there. So it's baking soda plus, basically. And you'll want to use just pure baking soda sometimes. You want to use some baking powder other times. Sometimes a mixture for certain things. That's an excellent question. All right, so now I'm going to start on the rest of it. So I'm going to go over here and start throwing my wet ingredients together. Not including the beer, no beer. That's for tasting. So I need butter, half cup of butter. They say not to melt it, so that's okay. In case you're wondering, when it says half cup of butter, 1 stick of butter is, I'm pretty sure, a half cup. So here's my stick of butter. Right, you need the other thing. That's good. All right. So I'm going to put that into the bowl. It definitely asks questions. That's a good thing. So it wants me to beat together the butter, so half cup of butter, cup of white sugar, and 2 eggs. Take some sugar, pour that into the cup. Now this is a little cross-contamination. I still got a little bit of flour in here. But in this case, this is all going into the wet. A few particles of flour are going to end up in here anyway. So it's actually not going to hurt this particular recipe. You don't want to put flour in your salt dish or your salt container that's always going to be there. You want, but when you're going to end, all this is going to end up in the same thing anyway. No big deal. All right, so that, and then we need 2 eggs. So we grab 2 eggs from here. Pull out both of them. And then we will crack 1 in there. There we go. And we'll crack the other one in there. There we go. And then we beat together until smooth. That's pretty easy. Must be Somebody's Dreamers music. I wonder if I click on that link to watch it, what will happen? Huh. I can see the stream. Interesting. Let's see if there's some way of doing comments or something. All right, so now we're just going to mix that together. we go. Now, of course, the butter's hard. It's going to take a while for that to soften up as that goes. You know, it's going to take a while for the butter to soften up and cream with the sugar. So it's getting there now. The recipe says to beat together until smooth, meaning you want no lumps. And it's not there yet. It's still working. Then I'll mix in the vanilla, then stir in the apples and the flour mixture. Oh, then I need to prepare my pan. Yep, not ready there yet. I have these wonderful silicone muffin tins, muffin things. I'll spray those down with a little bit of, actually this is grapeseed oil, which is very nice, very high smoke point, no flavor. Still lumpy. Looking like scrambled eggs now. So again, kind of lumpy, but not too bad yet. Welcome, Justin. Just doing a Talking No Cooking now, or Cooking with CK. Yep, still got sort of a scrambled egg consistency. I'm going to actually increase the speed now. Starting to get a little better. So let that go. As I said, we'll add the vanilla. So much vanilla? We need 1 1/4 teaspoon vanilla. Pull that down. Okay, I know this is it's a little hard to open. There we go. And I'll grab my 1/4 teaspoon. There we go. Still not there yet. Clean that off. There we are. Hey, Mozone, welcome. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Post Thanksgiving. There we go. Okay, that's good. It's a little lumpy, but I think we're fine. Okay, so now we want to mix in the vanilla. So let me pour in 1/4 teaspoon vanilla, and then a full teaspoon. There we are. And we'll mix that more slowly. There we are. Put that all nice and in there. Starting to salivate. Good. Now we stir in the apples. That indicates we don't really want to go too nuts over that. I'm surprised. Yeah. Right. Wait a second. Let me check something real quick. Yeah. All right. So, what I'm going to do is take this down. I'm going to stir in the apples. So I'm just going to put those there. Not quite yet. Not quite done with the stir yet. Okay. I'm just going to mix the apples. You can see there's my mixture, kind of. So I just want to mix those apples in. Nothing too crazy. Doing that by hand. With a little normal spoon. Just get those all nice and incorporated. Right, then we're going to, they say, gradually blend in the flour mixture. That means this is going to go back in our mixer. I don't want to get rid of that just yet. Now I'm going to grab a, there we go. Then grab a sheet, a flexible baking sheet, or cutting board rather, and I'm going to sift in that flour while that goes around. Very slowly, put it this way. I'll mix that. You see, I'm sifting down the cutting board into that mixture. So we'll gradually mix that in on the very lowest setting for the mixer. I'm not trying to go crazy here, because you want to be very careful not to overmix muffins. That will destroy them completely. In fact, as soon as the last of the flour is out, I'm going to immediately turn this off and do the rest by hand, the rest of the mixing, just so I'm sure that these don't get overmixed. So there's our muffin dough. Now I'm going to take a spoon, scrape any dry ingredients into that, and just slowly fold that in. That's actually good. I don't see any need for any more mixing there. So that's good. We're done with that. And now we just spoon that into our pans. So let's move over so you can see that a little better. There's our pans. And I'm going to grab another spoon. Here's a neat little trick for spooning things with a thick batter like this. You just grab some with one. Oh, you have to see what I'm doing. There we go. Sorry about that. So I grab with one spoon and then scrape off with the other spoon into that pan. And I don't know how much I've got here, so I'm going to be careful with the amount I put in. I'm going to err on the side of too little. I can always add a little more to the tops of these. Scrape that off there. Yeah, I'm definitely being not generous enough. That's okay. Now that I've seen how much, now that I've seen I'm halfway done, but I've got a lot more dough left, I can be a little more generous. I think these apple chunks are a little too big, to be honest. We probably could have made the apple chunks smaller. So as a result, these are going to probably fall apart somewhat. Again, that's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think they're gonna hold together too well. But such is life. Okay. A bit more on this one. A bit more on these over here. Where I was kind of stingy. Quite stingy, in fact. There. And you want this to be even if you can, because you've got a bunch of different lumps of dough all baking at the same time. So if one has a lot of dough and one has very little, then you're going to end up with some of these things Some of these things, getting completely baked, while others aren't even baked yet. So that's that. So now we're going to make up our strudel on the top. This will be interesting. Whoa! I almost knocked the vanilla over. That would have been a tragedy. So that involves brown sugar, more flour, some cinnamon, and some butter. So I need 1/3 of a cup of packed brown sugar. Brown sugar likes to have, it needs to get packed down. It needs to be compressed. It's very sort of loose. Actually, well, it's easy for it to get non-compressed. So you want to be very firm with your brown sugar and really push it into that container. Push that in. Get rid of all the spaces. Make sure you've got that full to the brim of your brown sugar. It's very, very lumpy and clumpy. So put that all in there. There we go. Like that. I'll find a bowl. That looks like it should do nicely. So there's our brown sugar in the bowl. I'll break that apart a bit because now I want to make this strudel out of it. So I want to break that apart, make sure it's all nice and soft. There we go. Then I'm going to add to that 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar a tablespoon of flour and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Wow. So I need my AP flour again. Is my tablespoon. Let me grab a tablespoon. I'm going to use a tablespoon. There we go. So to that I will add a tablespoon of flour. There we go. I'll mix that all in a second. And then my 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. And there's my cinnamon. I'm going to use, I have a 1/4 teaspoon measure here. So I'm going to just sort of tap a bit of cinnamon in there until it's about half full. Easier. There we go. Now I want to mix that together. And so I want something with a lot of I want a fork, really. I want something that's going to really get in there, you know? And it looks like I'm getting some extreme video lagging issues. 1 second, let me see if I can fix that. Oh, that's why. Power cable came out. That won't help. So that should resolve itself in a few moments here. So I'm taking this brown sugar, flour, and cinnamon mixture and using a fork. The advantage of the fork is there are lots of those little tines to move everything around with. If I had a spoon, for example, it wouldn't be able to do much. It's kind of like oatmeal. So this should mix this up pretty well. Again, it's a strudel, so it doesn't need to be completely uniform. But you don't want really huge things either. So try to get any large pieces of flour, large white chunks of flour. We'll get that out there. Then we're going to add a little bit of butter to this. Okay, interesting. What music is playing? That would have been Quiet Life from Rurouni Kenshin OVA. Now I want me to take a tablespoon of butter and basically cut that in. So I'm going to grab some butter here, actually. That's not quite enough. So let me take this little chunk of butter I have here. Put off a tablespoon. And I'm actually going to sort of massage this in here. They say to cut it in, but I think with this little butter, there's really no way of doing that without just sort of getting your fingers in there and smooshing it around. A tablespoon of butter does not seem like a lot to me for this. And then, I don't know. So I'm trying to basically rub this butter into smaller and smaller pieces. I'm going for very small pieces of butter. And I'm just kind of thinking of what what a strudel topping for these things looks like. And so how big are the hunks on that? And that's about how big I'm going for the butter. Maybe a little smaller than that because I don't have much butter. There we go. All right. So there's my strudel topping. I'm going to scoosh these down a bit so I have a better platform for my strudel. Well, maybe that won't help. Then I'm just going to sprinkle this on top. Presumably I'll have enough for each. I'll be careful there. Sprinkle that there. So I'm just, grabbing some and sprinkling. Nothing too exciting. And as always, I was a little too stingy, so I can go back over some of these and add a bit more. I will certainly use some more. Might as well get all the tops covered. Here we go. And a bit more. There we go. Okay. Let me just wash my hands. And these will go in the oven for about 20 minutes. Or until a toothpick inserted in the center of a muffin comes out clean. Toothpicks are really useful. Toothpicks are awesome. The one before Quiet Life was Pain from Some Days Dreamers. Pain. All right, so now we go over to the oven. Welcome back, Carl. Camera's really happy with me today for some reason. Everything's kind of moving along nicely. All right, open that up. In case you're wondering, that's a pizza stone. Great for baking pizzas, obviously, but also it basically takes some heat and puts it in the stone, and so the stone will radiate heat very evenly, and so it doesn't hurt anything. And since it's down there, it will bake things very well. Yeah, sorry, I had to rescue Ketchum from dying inside a bit every day. Sorry, chat room. All right, so now I'm going to take the rest of this stuff and toss it in the sink. As we all know from Ratatouille, you always move your stuff to the sink as quickly as possible. Good advice there. So I can throw in these things here. And then pull that out. And we will just finish cleaning up here a bit. Always important to clean up when you're done. And not have dishes sitting around. So you'll notice I'm taking this brown sugar and actually putting it in a separate bag. That is so that it doesn't want to close. There we go. That is so you don't want any air touching this brown sugar. Brown sugar dries out real easily. So you can put it in another bag that's airtight and has no air in it. You push all the air out. That's really going to help. I'm going to take my soap. So the soap I was making earlier, let's show that real quick. Am I zoomed in? Nope. So here's some of that soap I was making earlier. Turning out quite nicely. I'll put those in the fridge again so they'll chill out and they'll pack up. Be easier to remove from the molds. All right, so all this stuff goes in here, and now we commence an Operation Cleanup. So I think it'll be helpful here to see how one cleans up from something like this. Nothing too surprising, but here's the idea: is let's set a timer, let's set a countdown. The song was "Pain" from Some Days Dreamers. Pain as in physical pain. So, take all of the silverware, obviously, put that in the dishwasher. All the measuring cups and spoons can go in the dishwasher as well. Then we'll rinse out the bowl a bit to sort of get a lot of that dough out. Don't need to be crazy about this. The dishwasher can take care of it. But we'll try to get, you know, some of it out. You know, any modern dishwasher should be able to handle some amount of food debris, as long as it hasn't caked on there. So instead of setting the timer, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, because there's so little to do. Same thing with the beater, so to speak. So the beater from the mixer can just go right there, right on the top of the dishwasher. The cutting board can go down there. Dishwasher safe. Plate can go right in there. No problem there. The large measuring cup can go on the top. Usually. One more piece of silverware to go. Oh, that's the soap one. Take a little while. Those are okay. Here we go. Oh, and I'm going to put the bottom to the sifter. Okay, so those are now going there. I can start the dishwasher there in a minute. Meanwhile, I've still got the apple remains, so I'll throw that away right now. That can go in your recycling, not your regular recycling. That can go in a that's good garden waste, vegetable waste. That can go out and turn into a nice mulch.